going west, we want to urge all of our residents to log into our flood inundation mapping and alert network, known as FIMAN, at fiman.nc.gov. That's FIMAN.nc.gov. fiman.nc.gov. In that site, you can see what roads and structures will be affected by flooding. And users can also sign up to be alerted by this system by text or email when rivers near you will begin to rise. As also, always, let's please make sure that you follow the guidance of your local officials, especially when it comes to reentry, and stay tuned to your local media for guidance so that you can ensure situational awareness. Thank you so much for your support of the North Carolina State Emergency Response Team. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Director Sprayberry. We'll now hear from our Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mandy Cohen.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. We are in close contact with hospitals and assisted living facilities in affected areas to assess their current status and encourage those that need assistance to contact their local emergency management officials. We continue to gather information from those facilities regarding their capabilities to deliver services related to staffing and power, food, water, and supplies. So continue to contact local emergency management officials. In terms of medical shelters, we have 3 that are up in Goldsboro, Clayton, and High Point. All of them have bed availability, with most of those bed availability being in Clayton. And we are evaluating other medical shelter sites at this point. If someone does need to go to a medical shelter, please call local emergency management for a referral there. And then lastly, let me leave you with 3 safety tips. You continue to hear us say, please do not drive through standing or moving water. This is the #1 cause of death in Hurricane Matthew. Please, if you see standing water, don't drown, turn around. Second thing to remember is, as you are using gas-powered generators, make sure you're not using those inside. The carbon monoxide from those could be poisonous. And then lastly, as we move through the next phases of the storm, make sure you are throwing away food that may have come into contact with flood or storm waters. Perishable foods that have not been refrigerated properly due to power outages may cause illness. When in doubt, throw it out. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Now we have General Jim Trogdon, who is our Secretary of the Department of Transportation. Jim?
Thank you, Governor. Conditions across Carolina continue to worsen in transportation. Currently, as of this morning, I-40 had to be closed between exit 364 and 369, which is the vicinity of Warsaw. We're working closely, and the Highway Patrol is out reviewing potential detour routes now. We are working to reestablish and establish those detour routes to support our emergency response to eastern North Carolina. There's numerous counties with numerous primary roads closed. Almost every county in eastern North Carolina has primary roads closed. Since yesterday, almost 12 hours ago, the number has doubled. So it was 30 yesterday, today it is 60. Our efforts today will be focused in priority on these things: maintaining and establishing detours on our critical interstates and facilities to support emergency response, clearance of trees and debris in support of emergency response, pre-positioning assets to support future riverine flooding. We are using the products that Director Sprayberry mentioned to determine where we believe our closures will be coming up as flood events progress. And then we'll move to initial clearance of debris from all roadways. I would like to reinforce that roads open today may be closed by this afternoon, so things can change dynamically. I do anticipate tomorrow we'll have a significant increase in the number of roads covered with water. So do not travel east of I-95, south of US 70, because those conditions will be extremely hazardous now, will continue to get more hazardous, and those conditions will change rapidly. If you do travel throughout North Carolina, go to the drivenc.gov app. It has the latest information on where road closures, where detours are, and what the current conditions are in travel speed and other conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Trotman. Now we'll have the commander of the North Carolina Highway Patrol, Colonel Glenn McNeil. Colonel McNeil.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. The State Highway Patrol and our DOT partners continue to work on the coast of the Piedmont, responding to help those affected by this storm. We continue to see our primary calls for
Here's
service
another one
from
heading for a
trees
washed-out drain.
and power lines blocking roadways, along with the obvious flash flooding of roads. Overnight, our troopers responded to 82 calls for service and 56 collisions within the affected portions of our state. I'm pleased to report of those calls for service and those collisions investigated that none resulted in a fatality. Incidents of downed power lines are being reported to utility companies and monitored to ensure that unsuspected drivers do not cross power lines. The heavy rains that are moving west will inherently bring with them the dangers that we've already faced in the sandhills to the eastern portions of our state. Motorists should avoid at all costs traveling through roads that we have closed. Don't drive around barricades, and again, as the governor has stated, do not drive through standing water or rushing water. We have no way of verifying that that road still remains under the rushing water. With the continued and spreading power outages, remember to treat all intersections that do not have power as a four-way stop. Continue to utilize drivenc.gov and avoid calling Star HP or 911 for roadway conditions. If you have to travel, please go to this website and verify. Secretary Trotman said, as the governor stated, the road that's open today may not be open tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel McNeil. We'll now hear from Major General Greg Lusk, Commander of the North Carolina Highway Patrol. General?
Hey, good morning, and thank you very much, Governor Cooper. So there has not been any significant changes in the disposition of the National Guard forces that are out there arrayed across the entire state, from the east all the way to the mountains. The only changes, of course, obviously more have been employed in the various life-saving and rescue missions that are ongoing, particularly in the east. That will increase significantly as the storm continues to move west, and we will, I think, see an increase in the utilization and the application of some of these teams that we already have pre-positioned. It's important to note that while we have folks already pre-positioned and ready to respond all across the state, and we're talking about this historic flooding and impacts to the central and the southern parts of our state, from the sandhills to the Piedmont all the way to the mountains, to reinforce our local partners and our incident commanders that will surely be calling on them in the future. But it's also important to note that there is a significant amount of resources that are lined up around us.
And they've already made room in jails for looters and those breaking curfew. So no worries, free room and board. This might not be good conditions.
Yesterday I talked about the joint task force that we stood up under the command and control of our dual status commander, Major General Jim Ernst. And he's over there working with his crew to help coordinate and make sure that we...
And it's not really as bad as it's being hyped up to be. You just need to watch
once the storm passes and conditions allow,
anywhere that has the drainage tiles, the drainage ditches, watch your bridges.
Buchanan here with us, Joint Forces Land Component Commander, the Department of Defense lead agency, here to help
near the high schools, or the high schools or schools themselves, the colleges will be the mobile hospitals. Those will be your emergency evac centers for sure.
Glad to have you here today.
We are under mandatory curfew, 8 p.m. to 7 a.m.
We're going to need all these resources to respond and recover from this storm. And I'm going to emphasize one more time. You heard the report from Secretary Trotman and from the commander of the Highway Patrol. Those who've evacuated east may want to go back home right now. In many ways, conditions are getting worse in the middle eastern to southeastern North Carolina because of the significant flooding, travel conditions in many ways are getting worse. And when you go back home, then you're getting in the way of emergency responders, relief efforts, utility crews, particularly as we're having a difficult time finding routes to the areas that need help. So we ask you to stay off the road. People of North Carolina have been pretty good about that. We're going to ask you to continue. And we also are getting a lot of calls from people who want to help. We're grateful to the American Red Cross and for our faith-based groups and our nonprofits that are helping out. If you want to contribute, you can go online to governor.nc.gov or text Florence to 20222. This relief fund is available to people in North Carolina who need the help. Our whole team now will open it up for questions that you might have.
All right, you've been listening in to Governor Cooper's daily briefing, talking about the state's response, but the major theme, this is a long-term event. On the other side of the screen was this extraordinary live picture from Duplin County.
Right, North Carolina, seeing unprecedented flooding, and of course, Jeff Gravely there in Duplin County, which is about an hour.
I'll stream as long as I can.
Raleigh, and Jeff, wouldn't you know it, just seeing those trucks drive through that flooded water on cue as Governor Cooper is telling people to not drive through flooded roads.
You know, Renee, we were on I-40 driving towards Warsaw, but it is closed on both sides there, so we pulled off here on 117 to try to get to Warsaw, or at Mount Olive, that is, and then we took a detour off of that. We're actually on Highway 50. Right at Cottle Farm, which you can see on the other side, and we have
a lot of these places, convenience stores, Family Dollars, Dollar Trees, they're not getting any supplies until next Tuesday, as far as I know. If it's anything like Matthew, as they mentioned on the radio here, we will be shut off from Goldsboro, North Carolina, anything north to Virginia to South Carolina, for at least a good week or two when they start releasing water from the Raleigh dams. Hopefully they prepared ahead of time and dredged and sump pumped a lot of the water out and got it where it needed to be. I don't know if that's something they think about exactly anymore.
It doesn't have to be much water. All it has to do is continue to roll down the hill. And if you can walk on this side, Jake, we're going to walk over here and kind of show you the force of water that is swirling right here. Obviously some type of drainage, but that becomes a cyclone within itself. So when the governor says, don't get out in this water,
go for a swim.
You not. Now I know people are saying, well, why are you out in this? Believe me, we're taking all the precautions that we can. And if I felt like we were threatened, I would not be out in here.
Talk to you all soon. Please share.
210 pounds.
Jeff, we are going to come right